Hi, good day everyone. Okay, so it's me Garth again of Holy Sins Tattoos, and it's really been a while, so it's good to see you again, and it's good to be back. Well, I hope that everyone is safe. Just stay indoors. Hopefully that this virus is gonna go away, and I hope that you and your families are safe. Okay. So, but anyway, as for this episode, okay, I'm just going to be discussing a little bit of shading techniques and how to mix your own gray washes, okay? So for the shading techniques, we have a lot of different styles, okay? So first that we have the brush stroke, okay? So the brush stroke, usually it's being used for portraits, smooth blendings, especially if you want to have like a soft edge. You can actually use this type of stroke or shading. Okay, so the brush stroke. The best way to do it is, of course, know the consistency of your hand. How fast do you do it? How slow is your hand? Okay, so just keep the consistency, and it's like a pendulum. Okay, so the brush stroke, I'm going to be showing it to you later. We're going to be using some synthetic skin, okay, so that you can be able to see what I'm actually talking about. Okay, so the other one is the basic style of shading is the circular motion. Okay, all right, so sometimes we can observe, especially when we're still starting and we're still trying to learn it. Okay, so you will actually notice that every time you're going to be doing the circular motion or circular shading is that there's going to be some spaces between them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the best way to do this type of shading is that just go back a little bit. Okay. Now, for the circular shading, okay, let's say, example, this is a mag, or even if you're using a round liner, okay, so it's still applicable. Okay, so what they usually do is that they shade like this. See? And then you can actually see like that when you're gonna be shading it. Okay, so but the best way to do it is that just go back a little bit. Okay, it's just like, for example, this one. Okay, so just go back a little bit. Okay, so that you're gonna be sure that you were able to fill those spaces. Okay. Don't be in a rush, okay, when you're doing circular shading, and especially when you're packing, this is the best technique to use. When you're packing blacks, when you're packing colors, okay, so this is the best technique, the circular. Now, even if you're using round liners, yeah, this is still applicable. Okay? So it's not only for mags. As long as you are using the proper angle, you're gonna be sure that you're gonna be able to put the ink right to the skin. Okay, now for packing colors and blacks, if you want to get full black, clean black, this is one of the best techniques. And also what I usually do is that I press a little bit harder. If I want to have a lighter shade, it's like when you are shading on paper, okay, using a pencil. So if you want to have a darker color, you press a little bit harder, right? But of course, when you're using a machine and you're poking the skin, how can you actually be sure that you're not going to be poking too deep, going beyond the 2mm depth? Okay, so that's why it's always important to to use the proper angle so that even if you're going to be pressing a little bit hard, it's still going to be in the right depth. Okay, but of course don't really press hard, just a little bit, just not too much, man. Okay, so just a little bit. All right. Okay, now next we have the whip. So the whip shading. Usually for the whip, if you want to use the pointillism, and also some of if you want to have that type of sketchy shading on the edge of your design. Okay, so this whip, the whip. No more ink. Oh boy. Oh, I don't have any ink. Okay, there you go. Let's see. The whip. Now, for you to be able to get the pointillism effect when you're whip shading, try to lower the voltage of your power supply, and also try to base it on the consistency and the speed of your stroke. Okay, so if you sometimes for me I use 6 volts or 5 because I kind of stroke really fast. Okay, so still I'm able to get that kind of effect when I'm doing it. So, but you can actually try to drop it down to 4 volts, 5. Okay, so you drop it down to 4 or 5. You can actually get this type of no more ink. Okay, no more ink. Okay, there you go. So you're gonna be getting this type of effect on your shading. Okay. Just use a fast stroke on a low voltage power supply. Okay. You will get that pointillism effect. Okay, so I'm actually gonna show you how I mix my gray washes. So this is gonna be the light gray, the mid gray, the dark, and the full black. Okay, so usually I use 1, 3, 6 for the drops of my black. So I'm gonna show you how I do it. Okay, very basic. Okay, 1 drop. Three drops. Six drops. And this is gonna be for your full black. And always make sure after pouring the ink, always clean the nozzle. Okay? Alright. And what I usually do is that I add half witch hazel and add half distilled water. Okay, so this is my witch hazel. So that's gonna be half. And then I'm gonna add and I'm gonna fill it all up using distilled water. Okay, and this is the distilled water. Sorry about the bubbles. Okay. Now, regarding the gray wash mix, you're still gonna be basing it on the skin of your client. So if it's gonna be dark skin, you can actually add more drops. Like just add 2 more drops. That's what I usually do, especially for us, especially Filipinos. We have brown skin, or which we call kayumangi, or tan. Okay, so we usually, or what I usually do is that I add 2 more drops. So if I made 1, 3, 6, I'm just gonna add 2. So that's gonna be 3, 5, and 8. Okay, so 3, 5, 8. If my client is dark skinned. Okay, but if the skin tone is just fair, white, okay, you can just use 1, 3, 6. The reason for that is that for you to be able to see, especially once it's already healed, you can actually still see the shading that you did. Okay, because if you're gonna use 1, 3, 6 on a dark skin, once it healed, you're not gonna be able to see the rendition, the blending of the black to gray. You're not gonna be able to see that, and most likely the light gray will just, it's not gonna be seen at all. So yeah, that's not gonna really look good. Okay, and that's the purpose, and that's one of the reasons why we always need to check. As being an artist, it's the longevity of the art that you've made. Okay, so even if already is like 10 years or 20 years, it's still gonna be good. You can still see the combination, the blending of the shading. It's still there. Okay, sometimes you can also add 2 drops of white. Sometimes I use this when I'm doing cover-ups, and there's gonna be an extra cup for just full white. Okay, maybe later on we can be able to discuss that. Yeah, I was able to try this already, adding 2 drops here, and yeah, the results is already good, but for me I prefer it this way. But you can actually try it out. Okay, so it's good. Alright, okay, so let's try to tackle different types of shading. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so now I'm actually gonna show you the different strokes and styles in shading. Of course, the basic ones, which you can actually practice, and well, you can also evolve and use, of course. Okay, so we have different styles and techniques in shading. Now, by the way, the reason why I actually use half witch hazel and half distilled water in mixing my gray washes, it's because before I used to use witch hazel to mix my gray wash. So what happens is that when the time that I'm gonna be using it is that the skin turns red. And that's my observation. Okay, so if that doesn't happen to you, well, that's fine, I guess. But for me, that's my observation. So every time I'm gonna be using pure witch hazel to my gray washes, it actually makes it hard for me to see, the blending of the gray washes. That's why I actually add half distilled water to each cups, so that I can be able to control. Okay, good. So I'm actually going to be using a 15 mag. This is an LBB. This is also an LBB machine. It's good. It has no noise. You can actually just feel the vibration, and it's really light. And once you're putting in the cartridge, it's really tight, but it has a good fit, and it's tight. It's like that it's being locked there in place so that you can actually be sure that it's not going to be thrown out once you're going to be using it. Okay, so now I'm actually not using any gloves. This is just for tutorial purposes, okay? So, but of course, common sense, man. If you're going to be tattooing a client, always make sure that you wear gloves. And when you are mixing your gray wash, as you'll notice, I will actually start in the light gray, going to the mid, and going to the dark. Why? Because if you're gonna start at the dark mix, and then you're gonna mix this one, this one is gonna be dark as well. Okay, but if you're gonna start from light to dark, okay, from light, there's just gonna be, a very small chance that it's actually gonna be affected, or the mixture of your gray is not really gonna be affected that much, unlike when you're gonna be starting from the dark ones. Okay, so we're actually gonna be doing the what you call this. Usually they call this the brush stroke, but it has like a pendulum style of shading. Okay, the pendulum. Okay, so this is actually good for smooth blending type of shading. Want to have usually this is good for portraits. See? And just a reminder again, always remember and practice proper angle, okay? So always 45 degrees, okay? So even if you're actually holding the pen like this, well, you can actually still use, the pendulum. Okay? See? Always take your time. Art is never about rushing it. Okay, so that's one example. The pendulum or the brush stroke. Okay, the brush stroke. Now we have the circular type of shading. This is good, especially for packing. Okay. When you're packing colors, when you're packing black. Okay, so this is good. Now, yeah, I know this is really standard, but sometimes what they do is that when they shade and using the circular motion, they always do it like they are in a hurry, like this. As you can see, there's gonna be parts there. So, if you're gonna do that, so there's gonna be like scratches, needle marks there showing this and this, and then there's gonna be some spaces there. But if you're actually gonna do it this way, like, circular motions and then a little step back, okay, so it's like you're gonna go back a little bit like that, okay, and just again take your time. Feel the vibration and feel the consistency of your stroke. See? Ta-da! See? Much better. Just go back a little bit, especially when you're doing when you're packing collars or full blacks. Okay, this technique is really good. See? Just go back a little bit. Yeah, circle, then go back a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, dirty. I don't really usually use synthetic skins. See? And sometimes what I do is that, especially when I'm packing colors, I put a little more pressure compared to when I'm using gray washes or when I'm using gray. Okay, for full blacks, I put a little more pressure, but how sure am I that it's not gonna go beyond 2 millimeters? It's because I'm using the proper angle. Okay, so even if I'm gonna be pressing a little bit hard, the skin, see, this is the light, and then you're pressing hard, you can actually hear the sound. Try to observe, okay, and of course proper stretching of the skin. Okay, see. Now what other, we have the whip, or we have the whip. Usually when they do the whip is that they just do it like this. Oh boy, so messy, man. To some synthetic skins, this is what I don't like. It's really hard to clean. If you're doing pointillisms, usually the type of shading that is being used is the whip. And sometimes I like the whip because it has this needle marks. It really depends on the type of art that you're doing and the design and the style that you're doing. Sometimes for me, I like it a little bit sketchy, so I want to see some of the little needle marks there when I'm doing the shading. It makes it look like, that you're really sketching on paper. But the best way to do, the whip, is that what I usually do is that
I do it like this. Yeah, usually they do it like that. Here's the line, for example. So on the edge of the line, you're gonna be doing like that. Okay. What I usually do is like this. At the same time, it's giving it a smooth blend. See, you can't see it anymore. Okay, let's try to clean it up and let's see. Okay. Okay, so this one is the one that this is the brush stroke that we did. Again, the brush stroke is really good for smooth blendings, for like portraits. Okay, if you want to have a soft edge of the shading, okay, you can actually use this type of technique. The circular motion, good for packing. Good for packing, as you can see, as I said. Rather than doing it that way, you do it, just go back a little bit, okay, and then see, and if you're going to be doing full blacks, just press a little bit harder, not too hard, just right, okay, so that you can be able to get that that full black, a clean full black, okay. And of course, very important, the stretching of the skin. Okay, now for the whip, this is the whip technique. Okay, see, as you can see, there's a little bit of pointillism there, the needle marks. Okay, yeah, there you go. See, all right, okay.
Okay guys, so I hope that you learned something new, and always remember that you always need to practice. For this type of craft that we do, it's a continuous learning, okay? So don't always rely to your mentors, because they have other things to do, okay? So they can't really focus on you all the time. So you need to be proactive in researching, studying by yourself, okay? We have this resources online, okay, which is really gonna make it really easy. All right, now if you have any comments and suggestions, just leave it in the comment section or send me a message, and don't forget to subscribe. Just click the subscription button there, and also the notification bell for more videos. Okay, all right, so I'll see you again. This is Garth of Holy Sins, and I'll see you again next time.